to take poultry or animals, you had to go off island, which meant a ferry trip, a trip the following day or the following week to pick up the meat, or hang around all day, you know, that kind of thing, and stressful for the animals and everything. So it got to be a really big hassle. And what we saw was people just gave up. It was just not worth the trouble anymore. So livestock production actually declined between 2004 and 2008. We actually measured and talked to people and got the numbers. So poultry was down 54%, and sheep and cattle was down 40 something.
Wow, 40. That's a big part.
So it was a big drop.
Welcome to Big Moment. I'm Janae Donaldson. I'm on Salt Spring Island near Vancouver in British Columbia with Anne Macey, who's the chair of the Salt Spring Island Agricultural Alliance. Thanks for joining me.
You're very welcome.
We are in a most interesting place. What is this?
This is the local abattoir.
And what is an abattoir?
Abattoir is the place where we bring animals and birds for processing for meat. So we slaughter the animals here and we cut and wrap them up. So it's a community facility.
Ah, okay. So there's a big story about how this came to be, because this is relatively recent.
Yes, it's been in operation about a year now. But it started several years ago when we decided that what we needed on the island was a plan to revitalise agriculture. So we being the Farmers Institute, Island Natural Growers and other people interested.
Farmers Institute and the Island Natural Growers. Okay.
So they were the two main organisations, the two main farming organisations on the island, but also with the Islands Trust and the BC Ministry helped us, different people helped us put together an area farm plan. So it was a community dialogue. We had these community meetings of farmers, anybody interested in local food. We brought them together for a few Saturday afternoons and talked about what was wrong with agriculture, what we needed to do to change it, and developed this plan. So that was 2008 we published this plan, and there were some key recommendations in that plan. The first one was to create an alliance of the organisations that were interested in this.
Which
so
you did.
We did immediately. And the second one was to create a farmland trust, which was to provide land, like community-owned land that we could lease to farmers and people interested in growing.
Hugely important.
So we've done that too.
Good for you. Congratulations.
And then the third of the key recommendations was to develop agricultural infrastructure to support the growth of agriculture.
Okay.
And so one of the main ones, I guess, was to have an abattoir or a slaughterhouse somewhere people could take their animals for processing. Because
otherwise it would be off the island?
yes, it used to all happen on island, but in 2004 there was the legislation came in, the new meat regs, which said if you want to sell meat, you have to do it in a licensed facility.
Okay.
And what we were doing here on the island, lots of people there were certain individuals on the island that would do the slaughter for other people, but it wasn't licensed. You know, they were going to people's farms or they had their own place where they did it, and then people the farmers were selling the meat, or they were doing it themselves and then selling the meat. And once the regulations came in, they couldn't do that. You could do it for your own consumption, but you couldn't
sell it. All right.
And so to take poultry or animals, you had to go off island, which meant a ferry trip, trip the following day or the following week to pick up the meat, or hang around all day, you know, that kind of thing, and stressful for the animals and everything. So it got to
be expensive.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
to do all the transportation on that.
So it got to be a really big hassle. And what we saw was people just gave up. It was just not worth the trouble anymore. So livestock production actually declined between 2004 and 2008. We actually measured and talked to people and got the numbers. So poultry was down 54%, and sheep and cattle was down 40 something.
Wow, 40, that's a big part.
So it was a big drop, and we actually had the figures to show it.
Wow.
So we started having a conversation about, well, if we had the infrastructure here on the island, how would that help? So we'd started to explore it a bit earlier, and there'd been a study done, and it was just not viable. Just the cost of doing it for an individual, for a business to do it, or for a farmer to upgrade facilities. There just wasn't the money in it.
Okay.
Because it was an expensive proposition to put something like this in place. So we decided, well, what if the community paid for it and invested in this? And we raised funds in the community so we could start operations without debt. And we figured out that if we could do that, then it could be viable.
Yes.
So that is what we decided to do.
Wow, that's a great achievement. I mean,
Yes.
I mean, how much was the
So we
cost
had a
of this
committee,
facility?
this is designed by committee, but we had a committee came together. We found out there was some grants. There was the meat transition program from the BC government, because they put these rules in. They actually made some money available to help people upgrade.
Good, that's good.
So we applied for that grant, and then we went about fundraising. We started fundraising in 2010, and at the same time we were, drawing plans and trying to figure out how it could work. And we actually started building January 2012, having raised $350,000 together to get with the grant as well. We thought we could do it for that. We were mistaken. Anyway, that was where we started. And then we proceeded to build. We thought it was going to be possibly mobile. We had the slaughter trail. We decided it was cheaper to do it that was one reason that we did that. But the other reason was we didn't have a permanent site. We had to lease the land, and there's always the concern you might have to move everything.
Right.
So it wasn't a mobile abattoir that was going to move from farm to farm to farm. It was one that was going to be set at this docking station, we call it, where it's, but potentially could move somewhere else, or potentially the trailer part of it could move to other islands. Or that was what we thought until we tried getting it on and off the ferry. And then we decided this isn't really practical.
It's just too large or
It's
heavy
too
or
large,
cumbersome.
awkward, getting it up the ramps, it's got a bit high tide and things like that. So it became more and more permanent in terms of staying where it's put. So people think when we talk about mobile that we mean we're going to move around. But we don't, we stay here. But what we do that's unique, I think maybe in Canada, but certainly unique in British Columbia, is that we do poultry and red meat. Which meant that nobody else had tried it, which meant there wasn't really any examples to see how it might work and what, So we were a bit out on some of our budgeting and everything else, but basically because we didn't know what.
Well, you're creating a new direction. I mean, if what you're trying to do is expand the capability so that you can do poultry as well as red meat animals, then you're pioneering some new territory which will help others do the same kind of thing in their smaller communities.
So it was an interesting process. A lot of people said it couldn't be done. We proved that we could do it.
Yes.
We did unfortunately end up with a bit of debt, which we hadn't intended, but we're paying it off slowly and surely. And having fun doing it. We have parties and
that's good.
Dinners, local food dinners for a couple of hundred people.
I think I want to stick around here and enjoy that.
Gradually paying it off.
Sure, with fundraising. And so you've been in operation about a year. And so what kind of response are you getting from the animal growers here?
A great response. I mean, people are starting to raise more livestock, knowing that the facilities here. I mean, one farmer just told me the other day the reason he's raising livestock is because we're here.
Oh, good.
We can't actually do the livestock he's raising yet because he's raising pigs and we haven't quite got all the equipment we need for pigs, but he does do poultry and other things, so he's been using it for that. But so we're seeing numbers really go up. Good. And some people are still taking livestock off island if it works for them, or we do tend, we're not cheaper to come here really, but there's less time involved and it's a lot easier on the animals. They only got to make a short journey.
Yes.
And things like that. So, and I think even people that were not so enthusiastic about the idea, shall we say, are warming to it now.
Oh, good.
So I think there's a lot of potential
Good
here.
for you.
But it's an ongoing.
Well,
Challenges are ongoing.
I'm sure that's true with any major endeavor
Yeah.
like this. And I'm, good for you and the people that are supporting you to keep at it.
It's great because we now have local lamb in the local store on a regular basis.
Oh, local grocery store.
In our local
Yeah.
grocery store, and that's
Good.
all coming through here.
That's important stuff.
And just a lot more
So,
local food out there.
yes.
Great.
Can you show us just
Yes.
the basics of what the
Let's do a
facility
little tour. I'll
is?
take you
Okay.
around the way things happen, so
Okay.
you can see how it works.
I like that. Yeah,
Great.
I'd like to see what this is here. Okay.
So this is where we'll start the tour. The animals would be driven up here in the truck. They come off the truck, down the chute. So this is sheep or cattle, and go into the pens here. So this
Okay.
is the animal corral. This is one of the reasons it cost a lot of money, because we hadn't realised in our budget, we thought, 25,000 building max,
Right.
pole barn. But we had forgotten the seismic regulations for this part of the world, where
earthquake.
everything has to be earthquake proof.
Ah.
So $70,000 plus, we now have this building that won't move in a mega earthquake.
Okay. Which is good for the animals.
Anyway,
Okay,
so the animals go through the chutes round the back, and then they come through here into something we call the knock box. I'll take you.
The knot box.
The knock box. This is where. Oh. So the animals work round here. They're in here, and this is where they're stunned with a captive bolt stun gun.
Ah,
So
it's an electrical.
It's got a bolt in it, and you just hold it against the animal,
Uh-huh.
and then that stuns them so they can't feel anything. They're dragged through these doors here, hoisted on a winch and bled. This
see.
area is they're hoisted up, and they're bled here, and then they're skinned in this area.
Okay. So they just, do they put them up on a table or
Yes,
something?
so yes, if it's a lamb, there's a skinning cradle, we call it, which is out there. And so they're up at this height, and they skin them. And we actually have an interesting process for skinning. They use an air compressor, which pulls the skin away and makes it much quicker.
Yes, having done a little
yes,
skinning,
so
that would
that's
be...
for lambs. That's not
Okay.
for beef, but we do that for lambs.
All right.
And then after they're skinned, they go through these doors into this trailer where the evisceration and inspection and everything happens.
Well, let's...
And the inspectors are always here. Like we can't start until the government inspectors have been and inspected all the animals live to make sure they're healthy.
Okay.
And then they follow the process all the way through.
Oh, that's part of the certification, I imagine.
That's right. So the animal or the carcass is coming in on a hook along this rail up here. It is weighed there, and the weight comes, you see it on that readout there.
Okay.
The inspector does the inspection, make sure everything's fine, that it's washed, and then moved to this part, which is a refrigerated hanging cooler. Drip cooler, I mean.
Drip cooler.
So it's in the drip cooler for 24 hours, and then it's moved. So this, yes.
And this is...
Well, that's for the days when we do poultry.
All right.
So when we do poultry, in this outside area, we have a plucker and a scalder.
Plucker and a scalder. Okay.
So you put the birds are killed, they're moved into the scalder, which loosens the feathers. Then they go into the plucking machine, all the feathers come out. Then this is down.
Okay, so
And
it's
it's
a tray.
a table. The birds are hung onto there for evisceration and inspected by the inspector. And then they move through to here onto these racks.
Oh, okay. So
This is for the poultry. So
Poultry.
the birds hang on here to drip and cool in the refrigerator, because they have to reach a certain temperature before we can release them to the customers.
Okay.
So we do everything here for the farmers. It's a custom operation for farmers. The abattoir doesn't sell meat themselves, it's the farmers. So
Sure.
the farmers pay for the service.
You're doing all the processing.
So that for the processing. So this is refrigerated normally. It's turned off now, obviously. But
so you said the red meat animals
are hanging from these rails.
Yeah, I see.
And then after 24 hours, less than that for poultry, they move straight out into the poultry to the customers. But the red meat animals, lambs and beef, come through into the hanging cooler.
So this will be another refrigerated
So this
room.
is refrigerated.
Right.
The carcass hangs in here, or the quarters if it's beef or whatever, and they're aged. So it depends on what it is. Like a lamb might be 3 to 5 days. Beef might be 14 or 18, whatever people want for their animals in terms of aging.
Okay.
And then after that, they come through. The saw is having the maintenance done on it right now, but this is where the meat is cut.
It's cut and the bones and so on.
Yeah, so it's cut up and then it moves through into here. The packing, the wrapping.
I see.
So that's the wrapping.
Yeah,
This is
cutting and the cutting board.
This is a blast freezer. We also have a grinder, which isn't here right now, but for grinding meat.
Oh, for hamburger and that kind
Yes.
of thing?
Yes.
So when you said
It's
that's
actually-
a blast freezer?
Yes, so we can freeze really quickly. It's
Okay.
actually got the grinder in here because we were moving stuff around, but so that's normally out on this
Okay.
table.
Okay.
But so you can freeze meat quickly, which is a better quality.
Mm-hmm.
And then the customers come the day after. We don't hold stuff.
Right, it's just ready for them to pick
Yeah,
up.
so they pick up and take it home.
This is quite an operation.
So we have different crews, different days. It's run by a society, the Abattoir Society. We set it up as a non-profit society to run it. I mean, we explored different ways of doing it, and it may change, but the Alliance actually leases this building. We built the building, and we lease it to a society set up to do the operations. So the Agricultural Alliance doesn't get involved in the actual operation side of it, in terms of, staff and...
Right, so the Abattoir Society staff it, make sure that the inspectors are there, schedule it, all of that,
Yes.
and do all the packaging and packing, all the
Yes,
work.
so they're responsible, the society is responsible for the work. So we have about, I think I'm not sure, 9 part-time people that work, because we have a red meat crew and a cut and wrap crew and a poultry crew, that can be different people. Some of them are the same, obviously, but at the moment, busy time we were operating 2 or 3 slaughter days a week, and then probably 2 days in here.
I can well imagine, since you're just getting this rolling, that as your animal agricultural products increase, because this is available for island farmers, you may get busy in the busy seasons.
Oh, I think so. Yes, I think it's going to be probably as it builds up. We might find it actually quite challenging to
24-hour
It's only a small space.
It brings work and business
Yeah.
and food. I mean, to your
Yes.
to your island. I mean, it's brilliant. I salute you for taking on such an immense project.
Well, it's had its challenges, but we're really pleased we did it, and it has ongoing challenges. But I'm sure we're going to work through them. We're getting better all the time. We're getting more efficient. Things are working.
Yeah.
But it's a big learning curve, but we're getting there.
Good. Thank you. Any last things that I haven't asked you about here?
Well, this isn't the only thing the Alliance does. I mean, we are also, our next project is a produce storage and distribution centre. So that is in order to get more local food into the local grocery stores, or to help that.
Right.
So whether it's value added, to fruit and vegetables,
Okay.
the processing facility, or just storage, so every farmer doesn't have to build their own storage for things like winter vegetables that can go into the stores through the winter, rather than the farmer just trying to get rid of it all at this.
Return it to outside,
so he doesn't have to store it all winter.
Yes.
So it's that kind of facility, but we're just in the planning phase for that. We haven't even started thinking. We haven't got a design yet or anything. So it's just at the moment we're planning it. We have trying to decide how we should do it. We're hoping to make it as green as possible in terms of technology and things like that. But so I don't know when it'll start. When we've paid off the bills here, maybe we'll start that one, but we'll see.
That makes
It
sense.
just depends. We were very lucky. We were donated some land and some funds to start that one. So we've got a good start on it, and we're hoping that we can do that too.
You're doing it. You're building the infrastructure to support the farmers. I mean, it's a good model, and I'll just have to come back
You will.
so we can see what you're doing with that and see this in
I'm going to
operation.
take you and show you some of the farms, because we've
Yeah.
got some great little farms here on the island.
I love that little farm
Yeah.
tour. Thank you. This has been wonderful. Thank you for the tour.
Very
And,
welcome.
and I salute you for taking on something that's a value to your community, to your whole community of farmers, not just help, one farmer at a time.
Mhm.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're watching Peak Moment. I'm Janaea Donaldson on Salt Spring Island with Anne Macey. Join us next time.